We'll move on now, and we're going to talk about the talk to write methodology. Patrick, this is something that you've developed, I think.
Yes, it was. I've taught as a teacher, but also as a tutor. I've done both for my working life, and I've learned a lot from both. Sitting with a dyslexic, knowing that they understand the topic very well, and that they regularly don't create clear written arguments, sometimes with problems with structure, sometimes with spelling, sometimes with syntax, syntax, which is the order of words, very often with all three. It was interesting because I could talk to them and they were clear as as a non-dyslexic would be when they're talking about. In fact, dyslexics are brilliant talkers. They're very clear when they're talking, and when they would write, it would just be this word salad, and it was interesting to see the disparity. Now, if thinking about, I think if anyone was here last webinar, that writing, that was a multi-stage process, and you had to form the thought, then you had to organize the syntax of thought, then you had to get it down on a piece of paper, and that's what was problematic for the dyslexic. I said, look, stop writing. Let's stop practicing writing. Let's stop writing and start talking. Okay, now I want you to start talking the essay. I would say I would like you to talk your way through the essay, but I'm going to stop you. I'm going to imagine every single word that you say is going to be marked like an examiner. So if you say things in the wrong way, I'm going to say, okay, start again. I'd like your introduction to be a bit more clear.
Okay, and would you advise a parent to do that with their student, or is that something that you think someone with experience needs to do?
That's something that we're working with a number of our tutors on. Again, this is something that I haven't heard of anyone else doing, but I know it works. It's worked with me, and it's also worked with a number of tutors. We're not all our tutors are doing it, so you should certainly talk to us about which ones to do it with. We also got a blog on it explaining it. It's not something that we want to keep in. We'd like everyone to be in the country to be doing it, because we found that if you're doing it, it's as you were talking about earlier. You don't get that mark 2 weeks later on. I'll say, okay, James, I like that essay, but I want a stronger introduction, and I want more evaluation, and I want clear paragraphs. Like the way I get them to talk is say introduction. Fiscal policy is one of the most important policies in economics. Paragraph 1, state the argument. My argument is that fiscal policy is blah, blah, blah. So they not only, they're saying this is the first paragraph, this is the introduction, this is this part of this is the top part of the paragraph, this is the explained part of the paragraph, and so on.
So, if I'm right, Patrick, although this methodology is really helpful because dyslexics tend to be more lucid and coherent when they speak rather than when they write, at the same time, it's about following the mark scheme in a certain way. So you've got to give feedback according to the mark scheme for that specific exam. Is that right?
Well, imagine the two scenarios. The first scenario is the dyslexic sort of wades his way, with a pen heavy in his hand, he's writing this, knowing he's going to get a bad mark for the exam. You say to the dyslexic, look, I'm the examiner, but we're not going to do it with paper and ink. We're going to do it with you speaking, and I'm going to mark it. And you don't mark it the first time. You just say, look, okay, that was a great essay. Or I interrupt my students all the time. You interrupt them and say, okay, good intro, but I want more of this. Good intro, but you didn't actually cite the dates, and the mark scheme says you got to cite the dates, and you got to say you got to make reference to the text. So start again. That method is a quick fire method, and it's one that you can really improve the writing. Now, once you have the dyslexic perfectly talking essays, so you can get a dyslexic from a really poor essay at the beginning of the hour to a fantastic essay, at the end of the hour. It's actually a very small step, because once they've got that essay tight, they've got their essay technique tight, then they just write it, and they write a beautiful essay, because all the other work is done, and you're isolating the variables, and all they have to do is physically write it. So it's a much more effective technique than you do this juggling act of doing the writing and composing and syntax and structure and technique and all these things. You isolate the variables and you work on one variable and you say, okay, you've got the introduction, great, let's work on the first paragraph. No, paragraph one's not working, start again. Paragraph's still not working, let's start again. You go again and again and again until they're talking beautiful essays. And therefore you can see real tangible process for the dyslexic. And you can see the difference in the dyslexic because the dyslexic sees he's making progress. Like a dyslexic will actually become very depressed if you're asking him to write essays again and again and again because they don't feel they are improving in that short period of time.
Great, thanks Patrick. And if anyone's got any questions about that, because I think there's probably still some questions that are in my mind as well, feel free to get in contact and drop us a question in the GoToWebinar chat functionality as well.